Has Christ satisfied the wrath of God? Part 2. In Part 1, we explored the claim that Christ's death satisfied God's wrath. We found that if this were truly the case, there would be no reason for God to still pour out his wrath on mankind. In contrast, the New Testament teaches that Jesus was our substitute for sin. In other words, we were saved from our sin, not from God's wrath. Let us now examine the passage most often cited to support the idea that Christ came to satisfy God's wrath, Isaiah chapter 53. For instance, the second part of verse 4 says, "Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted." The Hebrew word translated as esteemed is kavshab, which means to reckon, to interpret, or even to fabricate. This means the verse does not say that God actually struck or smote Christ. It tells us that those witnessing the suffering only interpreted it that way. It might have appeared as though Christ was being punished by God, but this was not the divine reality. A couple of verses further on, we read in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 10, "It pleased the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When you make his soul an offering for sin." This verse does not portray a sadistic God who found pleasure in pouring out wrath on his Son. Instead, verse 11 reveals the reason it pleased the Father. "He shall see the labor of his soul, and be satisfied. By his knowledge my righteous servant shall justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities." In other words, it pleased the Father because he saw the outcome. Many will be justified through the servant's suffering. The New Testament echoes this in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." So, when we look closely at Isaiah chapter 53, the idea that God poured out his wrath on Jesus is not stated directly. It is inferred and arguably misinterpreted. The doctrine that Christ died to satisfy God's wrath appears to rest more on conjecture than on solid exegesis. Furthermore, the Bible clearly teaches that it was not wrath but love that motivated God to send his Son, as John chapter 3 verse 16 declares, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believed in him should not perish but have everlasting life." Like and subscribe for more 2-minute biblical rebuttals.